Hello everybody and welcome back to another episode of Microsoft Flight Simulator, and today we are coming out of the pilot's cabin here over at St. Bart's in the Caribbean. This is the Airworthy Designs version of St. Bart's, and we're going to be continuing our PC-12 training, if you will. Now I say training because over the last couple of days I have had the esteemed pleasure of working with a real-world PC-12 pilot who, funny enough, at the time of this video, flew into St. Bart's this morning. So we are going to be sort of refining some of the steps that I did in my previous video, which means I'm also going to be adjusting the tutorial PDF guide that I've been working on to reflect the new steps. And essentially what happened in my previous videos, I used the POH. Now, as great as the POH is as a tool, it's more of a tool as a reference, not necessarily practicing real-world operation, where this PC-12 pilot was kind enough to show me the best way to do things in the real world and real-world practice that they do every single day when they fly this aircraft. So the goal here today, guys, is to sort of get into the aircraft. We're going to walk through the new startup procedures as they are. I'm going to be expressing the changes that are going to be made in the PDF tutorial guide. We're going to be talking about some new features that are with this particular version of the aircraft. Please remember this version of the aircraft is a pre-release version, so anything that you see in this video could be subject to change before the actual release of the aircraft. We're going to be talking about some new packages that will be coming down later on, such as a failure package. We're going to be talking about why they are separating failures into a separate purchase. I actually think it's a really good idea, and I'll be explaining that, you guys. We're going to be talking about the EFB and how it works with Sky4Sim and a bunch of other really awesome stuff. So I hope you guys enjoy the video. Without further delay, let's go ahead and get ourselves into the cabin here and get it buttoned up and get out the door. If you are interested in acquiring any of my Overkills tutorial guides from Microsoft Flight Simulator, or simply interested in supporting the channel, please consider joining us on Patreon. Patreon subscribers level tier 2 and above have access to all of my guides, as well as any future releases that come down the road. Patreon link can be found in the description below. All right, so as I said, guys, this should be a lot of fun. I'm really looking forward to this. Hopefully I represent the aircraft a bit better. And to my PC-12 reference, I'm sure by now you are watching this video, and I want to thank you again for all of your help. And I'm sure you will have more things to critique after this particular video, and I look forward to hearing them. Just be gentle. I am not a real-world pilot, as you guys all know. So let's go ahead and talk about a few things right out of the gate. So before we get started with the pre-start checklist, I want to talk to you guys about failures. This is a topic that has been coming up quite a bit in the SimWorks Studios Discord, and I want to give you guys some information on how failures are going to work with this particular aircraft. So failures are going to come after the initial release, but they are going to be an add-on package that you can purchase. I have no insight, you guys, as to pricing, release dates, or anything like that. But I'm going to tell you guys why. Before anyone gets upset, just hear me for a second. Why they are doing it as a separate add-on. First one, the main reason, guys, is to make the base aircraft that I am sitting in right now cheaper for everybody. If you are a pilot who's not interested in failures, random failures, flight failures, ground failures, circuit breaker failures, if you're not interested in that and you just want to fly the aircraft, you're going to spend less than someone like myself or someone who wants that more advanced feature list inside the aircraft, okay? Who wants to experience the failures, who wants to be just cruising along and have something go south, right? As a content creator, obviously that enhances the videos and enhances the experience. So I'm definitely all for it. I'm absolutely all for failures. I loved the failures that have happened in my TBM 850. The other thing I want to touch on, guys, and we're going to be doing a comparison video. I'm going to be working with the PC-12 pilot that I've mentioned. And guys, again, I'm not going to say his name. I don't have permission to do so. So until I do, I'm keeping that under wraps for now. So you guys will just hear my PC-12 guy. I'm going to be working very closely with him, and we're going to be doing a comparison video between the PC-12 and the 850, and here is why. A lot of people are asking, well, which would you purchase, the 850 or the PC-12, PC-12 or the 850? They're two different aircraft in two different classes, have two different roles in the aviation industry. So there really is no comparison if you fly them in the manner that they are designed to be flown, if you use them for the utility purposes that they are meant to accomplish. And that's everything from performance to travel time to locations that they go to. I would say the TBM 850, from my experience thus far, they can go to pretty much all the same places. But the TBM is, in my experience thus far, faster. I think it has a slightly higher service ceiling, right? But they're two completely different. They have two completely different purposes. Okay, so I want to mention that real quick, that we're going to be doing an in-depth video as to what separates those two aircraft apart and why you would very much so want both of them. But I digressed a little bit there, and I apologize. The TBM 850, what I brought it up for the failures. All right, I've already had a couple of failures on startup and circuit breakers that have been popped and anti-ice that didn't work on the left boot. So the failures are fun. They definitely add an aspect of the unknown, right? But that's not for everybody. So that's why they are separating them into a add-on package. It makes the base aircraft cheaper, and it makes the failures completely optional. And as well as it gives them the opportunity to really hone in the failures and work in them as a separate package. So it is a decision that was made by the development team, and whether we agree with it or not, I can see both sides. I can see those who think that it should just be in the aircraft by default, and I can see where SimWorks Studios is going with it and making it an add-on package. I see the benefit to both sides. I truly do. Okay, so the last thing is, let's go ahead and get into the aircraft. Let's get into our checklist. So let me get my checklist pulled up here and let the games begin. So first thing I wanted you guys to be aware of is the controls lock. The control wheel lock, with that engaged, you are able to activate the sunshade. But notice if I remove the control wheel lock, I can no longer bring the sunshade up. So if you're ever wondering what that's going on, it's because the control wheel lock's on. The other thing is, while the control wheel lock is engaged, let's go outside. Cinematic is over. Notice that all of your reds are on and the wheel chocks are in. Remove the control wheel lock and they're all cleared. Okay, so we'll leave that in there because it's part of the checklist. All right, and then the Sky4Sim tablet, as I told you guys earlier, we'll be taking a look at later on once we get the engine started rolling up, and we'll probably use it for our flight navigation today, just so you guys can see a couple of the features. It's not going to be anything crazy. It's going to be very plain, but you'll still get to see it in action. I do like that it's integrated. For those of you who don't know what it is, please check the description down below, and I will have a link to my Sky4Sim, one of my Sky4Sim videos. I've done many of them. Sky4Sim is probably, in my opinion, the best EFB third-party software out there, especially for general aviation. Okay, it's really a very nice tool. All right, so with that in mind, we've got about 10 minutes already into the video. Let's get into the startup process. All right, so I have talked long enough. Yes, to my PC-12 pilot reference. I know that you're watching this video by now. Yes, I talk a lot. Okay, so let's get after it. Landing gear handle is down. Left and right circuit breaker panels. Verify all circuit breakers are pushed in. Move to the up top here. Make sure battery 2 is off. Battery 1 is off. External power is off. Non-essential bus is set to the auto position. And we're going to move on over to the standby bus. Turn the standby bus switch on. Make sure that we see at least 24 volts above on each battery. And we want to set any external lights that are required. We're in the daylight, so I'm just going to leave things as is for now, as during the pre-start process, nav and beacon are part of that checklist. So we'll address those at that time. Now, we're going to go ahead and turn the standby bus back off, battery 2 to the on position. Notice that we have 24 volts again on each battery. Notice the amp draw on battery 2. We can flip battery 1 on, and again, notice that the amperage is now split between the two units. All right. And so let's see here. Where are we here? Non-essential bus. We want to go to the override position. We should hear some of the avionics and fan systems come on. Okay. And let's see here. External lights. We would check that all are working. So we could do our taxi light, wing lights, nav lights, beacon lights, strobe lights, recog. Now you can see that they're on. You can see the amperage drawing. And if you wanted to, you could obviously have somebody, probably the pilot monitoring, would come out and monitor everything and verify that all lights are working. Let's flip all of our lights back off. Okay. And let's see here. Where were we? External light check on the non-essential or bus switch goes back to the auto position. And we want to do a fire test. From the fire test, we just check the annunciator panel, make sure that you have an engine fire light and fire detect light that illuminate. Fire switch off, lamp test. Again, making sure it looks like a Christmas tree inside the aircraft. All lights are working, all gauges are indicating, no burnt out bulbs, etc., etc. Etc., etc., excuse me. All right, and lamp test back off. And moving through the rest of this here, we want to take our boost pumps. Now, these are going to be audible, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to turn the left hand on. You're going to hear it. I'm going to turn the right hand on. You should be able to hear it as well. And then we'll switch them back to the auto position. And notice that the amperage draw also increased, indicating that they were pulling power. And then same thing with the ignition. Ignition, we're just going to be looking for amperage draw. Can't really hear it. At least I can't. Okay, and then EIS system, or the electronic instrument system. What did I just do? There we go. All right, we're going to go to the test switch. And again, you're going to make sure that all digits are full and clear. There's no broken digits. All lights are indicating. All gauges are peaking. Everything's working as you would expect. That test will complete automatically. And then finally with the fuel quantity, notice that it's showing no fuel on board, but I can promise there is some, so we're going to hit the fuel reset. There we go. And fuel quantity now showing as expected. Oxygen pressure, it's going to be over to our left butt cheek here. And you want to make sure that we are not over 1850 PSI and that we have enough pressure to complete the flight. And then finally, once that's verified, oxygen switch goes to the auto position. All right, let's see here. Or goes to the on position, sorry. Where was I? I lost my spot. Ah, okay. Sorry. Battery switch. The battery switches now go to the off position. Okay. And with the batteries in the off position, we're now going to go through our FS panel down here. And we're going to make sure the FS composite switch is set to the norm position. Then we're going to make sure AHRS 1 and 2 are set to slave. And we're going to do an EPS test, or emergency power system. So we're going to set it to test and make sure that the battery light illuminates. Battery light illuminated. Back to the off position. And where was I? Cabin pressure. Moving on over here. Cabin pressure you want to make sure is set in the auto position. We want to make sure our trim and flap interrupt switches are both set to norm and guarded. And I'm sorry, guys, that was passenger oxygen switch. We wanted to make sure it was set to the norm position. This is where we would actually turn on the oxygen switch, so that was my fault. First mistake, but at least I caught it. Okay, and let's keep on moving here. Where was I? Oxygen supply handle up. Oxygen masks, at this point, you would test the oxygen masks. And then cockpit cabin light switches as required. Lavatory. I believe I can come back here. Whoa. Let's back that up. Like eating the door. You would check the lavatory. Make sure no one's hiding in it. Make sure all supplies are necessary. Make sure lids close properly. All that good jazz. And make sure that somebody else's lunch wasn't in there from the flight before, I'm sure. Because that would be just disgusting to walk into. All right, so now let's move into the pre-start sequence of this particular aircraft. So control wheel lock. We're going to remove the control wheel lock. We're going to make sure the parking brake is set. Wheel chocks have been removed. Fuel caps are secured. Crew seats and seat belts are adjusted and secured. Overhead electrical switches are all off. Tick, 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 tick. Looks like good. Okay, and let's keep coming down here. Standby bus, if available, we're going to go ahead and turn that on. Standby bus is now on. Inertial separator comes to the on position, and any other de-icing switches as required. Cooling and heating switches should be all in the off position. Seatbelt, no smoking signs. As long as we are fueled, we're ready to go. We're going to go ahead and turn those on as well. Tell people to sit the hell down and stay down. And let's see here. Once again, coming downstairs here, making sure that all circuit breakers once again are verified as checked and ready to go. Coming back up top. Oh, wait, hold on. Manual override, power control lever, condition lever, all in the aft position, or so in our case, manual override is off, power control is at ground idle, and condition levers at cutoff, as well as flaps should be retracted. All right, so coming back upstairs, we're going to do the battery switches to the on position. Boom and boom. There we go. Nav light on. External power if required. We're not going to worry about that. Fuel quantity and totalizer. We already reset it. If we hadn't just done this a matter of seconds ago, we would go ahead and hit the reset again, but I'm fairly confident this is good to go, so we're going to keep on going. Landing gear position down, indicating 3 green lights, and caution and a warning system is indicating accordingly. We have Gen 1 and Gen 2 are off. The avionic bus switches are off, and environmental control switch is also off. Pusher test has not been completed. Annunciator reads correct. All right, so now to the engine start procedure. We're going to go to beacon light to the on position, let everyone around the aircraft know that we're getting ready to rock and roll. Prop area is clear, except for Susan over there. I don't know why she's standing there. She just likes to hang out in front of a turbo prop as it's about to start. Each to their own. What can you do, right? So in this case, we're going to come upstairs. We're going to hit the starter. We're going to be monitoring our EIS, looking for 13% on the NG, at which point we'll move the condition lever to the ground idle position. There it is. Monitoring ITT should not be above 800 degrees at all, but the maximum is 1000 degrees for no more than 5 seconds, 800 degrees for no more than 20 seconds. However, from speaking to my real-world pilot, he basically states that anytime it hits about 800 degrees, they are putting the engine back into cutoff. As you guys saw, it should not get ever that hot. Should not get ever that hot? Nice. How about should not ever get that hot? Alright, looking for engines to be stabilized and ITT to be stabilized, so continue to monitor engine instruments until we're all good. ITT stabilizing, looks like coming down, which is cool. We always want cooler versus hotter. Fuel quantity looks good. Engine oil and PSI look good, both in green. And now let's go ahead and go upstairs and turn some things on. So we're going to turn Gen 1 and Gen 2 off, starting with Gen 2, moving over to Gen 1. Everything looks good. Amperage draw looks nice. And coming on over to the avionics bus, turn avionics 1, avionics 2 on, looking awesome. And where were we? Standby bus goes to the off position now, cooling and heating as required. Now, this cooling, unlike other aircraft that we may have shown on this channel here, this cooling has nothing to do with the avionics. It is literally the air conditioning system. That chime that you guys just heard is the inertial separator, so don't worry about that. Now, we are going to go to System, and you guys can hear it. If you want to set it to high, you can, but that is really noisy. The one thing that my pilot did tell me is that apparently the AC in the PC-12 is less than favorable. It's super loud, very annoying, and they don't usually fly with it. So, it's just one of those things that I guess they've learned to deal with. Okay, so let's see, where were we? EPS light. Let's go ahead and come down here. Emergency power switch, EPS light is off, so that is good. And we're going to say the ECS switch goes to the auto position. And you know what I did, guys? I did a boo-boo on the before start checklist, the EPS. We tested to make sure the battery light came on, but it should have gone to the armed position. So forgive me, I think I skipped right past that line. So it should have gone, where were we? Should have gone de-icing, inertial separator on, cooling and heating set is correct, seatbelt no smoking sign, circuit breakers checked, EPS switch, test again, and go to the armed position. I read right over it, so my apologies. And again, all of this in my guide will be correct, I promise. I will be going much, much slower. I'm trying to save time for you guys on the flight here. So, continuing onward here. We now want to, we've set our ECS, our environmental control switch, to the auto position, and we now want flaps 15. Flap indicator is here. Alright, and flaps 15 verified. We'll go ahead and clear the master caution. Alright, and now let's go into the before taxi checklist. One thing I do want you guys to be aware of is this section right here. This is the proximity or ground proximity warning system. You should be able to test this. This is a feature, not a bug, essentially. This will be resolved shortly. I can't actually complete that portion of the test in this current build. Again, this is a pre-release. Please remember that. The aircraft is still actively being worked on very, very heavily, so please keep those in mind. Okay, so this will probably be on for the remainder of the flight. but that will be resolved before it gets into your hands, and probably before my next video. So let's go ahead and keep on going. Now we are going to go to the move to the pusher test. So, well, actually first we need to go to the inverter. Now here's the thing about the inverter. Okay, so the inverter, according to the checklist, will tell you that this needs to be switched. It's only done on the first flight of the day. And because you have to remember that we are not getting it in a previously flown state. It's going to be cold and dark. It's going to be the same state that we launch every single time. But if this was real world practice, the inverter switch would be switched every day on the first flight. So I would switch it to the battery, and then tomorrow when you go to fly it, you would come in here and you'd switch it back to Gen 1, and then it's never touched again for the remainder of the day. Okay, so just keep that in mind. We're going to leave it as where it is, as for simulation purposes, it really serves no purpose other than it's a fun switch to play with. Okay? All right, so now we're going to go through the pusher test. All right? Now, normally this would be done on the pilot side, pilot flying side, and then pilot not flying side. Okay, but in our case, we're just going to do it once for us flying. So, let's go ahead and let the games begin. He did tell me a bit of an easier way to do this than what I read in the POH, so hopefully I get this right. I've done it a couple times, but I've had interesting success rates. Sometimes I question whether or not my sanity is well enough to do this. So, we're going to do pusher test, and for those of you guys don't know, this is a stall pusher test. Essentially what happens is the aircraft is climbing, you're climbing, the aircraft starts to stall, it recognizes it starts to stall, the shaker will then grab the yoke, push it forward. Obviously you want to go nose down if you're in a stall to regain airspeed. We'll push it forward, and hopefully the aircraft will recover and come out of a stall. I was watching a video that my PC-12 pilot showed me on a PC-12 doing a stall. That is terrifying. It almost always rolls over on its back. So if you guys are interested in that, look up PC-12 stalls on YouTube, and you'll find out why you want to avoid a stall in this aircraft at all costs. It is awful, and I imagine it has something to do with the T-tail, but I'm not sure. Okay, so let's go ahead and begin the pusher test. Alright, so let's start our pusher test. So first thing that I want to let you guys know is that flaps 15 is required for this test to be completed, so please keep that in mind. So what we're going to do here is we're going to do the pusher test. We're going to depress that, increase engine power until the stick gets grabbed. There it is. Okay, so once it's pulled, we can then return the throttles to idle. Pull back on the control wheel. So I'm yanking back on my yoke here. Verify that we have the cause pusher ice mode warning. Then we're going to push and hold the interrupt switch. There we go. Then we're going to release the test pusher button, just like so, and release the button. And notice that our caution light has now gone our way, or our advisory light. And that's how you complete the pusher test. Okay, so hopefully I did that well. It's definitely a lot getting some of this stuff for sure. That's definitely one of those procedures that you have to practice a bit to get used to, and I will give you guys the heads up on that, so don't feel bad if you don't get it on the first try. Okay, and then after this, the pilot not flying would complete the same test on their side, verify everything's functioning over there. At this point, we can now set our avionics. So we'll set our barometric pressure. I'm going to come over here, get rid of the stick, turn on our transponder. And I believe the VFR code out here is 7000. And we'll just leave it in the on position for the moment. We would then do the autopilot trim test, however that's not currently modeled at this time. Cabin pressure controller, we would set that as necessary, but it is in the auto position, so we're going to let it rock and roll. Now, we would normally set our cruise altitude, so in our case what we're actually going to do is set our landing elevation, because again, we are not going high at all, guys. We're going to like probably 2,000 feet, just making a jump over to Juliana. So what we'll do is set our landing altitude plus 500 or so. So you can see right now currently it's at sea level, so I'm literally going to move it to about 500 feet. I mean, that's basically where we're at. Okay, so nothing crazy, no crazy flights today. That'll be for a later video once I get more comfortable with the aircraft. And let's see where we are here. So transponder has been set, altitude pre-select. So yeah, let's go ahead and lock that in. We'll go to 4,000. We'll go to 4,000 feet today. Okay. So we'll go to 4,000 feet, and where were we? HRS 1 and 2 are checked. They are. Oh, I hate when I do that. I do that all the time. Fuel quantity totalizer has been checked. Let's do a reset. Once again, make sure everything's good to go. Okay. And caution and warning system advisory panel has been checked and cleared. So we are now ready for the taxi. Alright, so taxi, we're going to make sure flight controls are free and correct. It's really weird how the yoke turns on this one with the rudder pedals. Not sure if that's by design or not. That's the first aircraft I think I've seen do that. Flight director set to go around. And I should probably turn those on. That would be helpful. So flight directors come to the on position. And where was I? Lost my position. Altitude pre-select is set and armed. Let's go ahead and lock in the altitude mode. Electronic trim set for takeoff. Both of these trim, or all three of these trim indicators, so it's essentially be set in the green. And here it is, the ground proximity warning system. Again, we can't complete at this time, so we're just going to leave that as is. Crew briefing is complete. We are now ready to taxi to our runway. Alright, before we do that, let's go ahead and bring up Sky4Sim. I told you guys that we would talk about that for just a minute. Let me launch the server. There it is. Okay. And let's bring up the tablet here. There it is. So, Sky4Sim, as I said, you guys, is an incredibly awesome application. This is just one of many features that this application has. It is absolutely fantastic for VFR flight planning. I think that's absolutely where it shines. You can import your own charts, your own screenshots, your own documentation, notes, checklists. Everything that you want can be imported into the software. It is absolutely amazing, you guys. So there's maps, there's airport information. You can type in ICAO codes and get all the information, everything from comms. You can set a flight plan up either through waypoint information or on the VFR map, which I'll show you guys here in just a second, as we'll use it to fly direct over to Princess Juliana, more or less. Weather information, METAR information, again, the PDF reader, so any PDF checklists, documentation, charts, etc., descent planners, logbooks, a whiteboard so you can just do a scratch pad. Now, someone did ask, yes, I can pop this panel out in case you guys are wondering. So if you have like pop-out panel manager with a touch screen, you can pop this panel out and use it. So that is really slick, you guys. That is awesome. So again, you have the whiteboard here where you can just sort of draw things if you want, however you want to do it. And then you also have a notepad. Let's go back over here to the menu here. And the notepad, I believe, is more for text-based, as you guys can see here. But it is, I'm not going to go into much more detail. It does have also integration with NeoFly, if you guys are interested. That's version 4. It is incredible, absolutely incredible, as well as you know, different job systems or different settings that you guys can go through. It is a wonderful application. So let's go ahead and use it here. So we're going to go from here. Obviously, I'm going to create my first waypoint here. Oh, I don't know why I'm trying to zoom out there. Then I'm going to zoom out, and we're going to find Princess Juliana, which I believe is to the south, if I'm not mistaken. Alright, so we'll zoom out here. And TNCM. There it is. So let's see how we want to get in here. Just to show you guys something here. So we obviously want to go, let's come out this way. See We want to come out here, come in here, and then land for a visual approach, right? So, you have a couple of different options that really come with this that make it super, super handy. So if we move on over to the flight plan. Okay, so first off, you have all of your information here. Now, check this out. You can actually take this information and import it directly into, for example, the G1000, G3000 series of aircraft, G5000, and it imports it directly. Or you can export from the Garmin series to Sky4Sim. So you can create your flight plan in here and move it directly on over into the Garmin systems. Now, I'm not going to demonstrate all that today again, but the only other thing that I wanted to show you guys that I think is really, really cool is the flight plan. Because if we had any terrain that we had to avoid here, at each leg, that terrain requirement would be listed here. Obviously, we're flying over sea level through the entire flight, so there's nothing to be concerned about. But really, really awesome software, you guys. This is a great piece of software that I wanted to make sure you guys saw. All right, so let's go ahead and close that. Let's see, turn that leg off. That's weather information. Oh, and that's the other nice thing. So check out, you even get weather information, altimeter setting, all kinds of cool crap. And I think that's all I want for today. So let's, I think we're going to zoom in a little bit. I'm going to zoom in on the aircraft. Sort of pull it down here. And let's get ready to go. So, go back to our checklist. So flight controls are free and correct. Flight instruments, check and set. Flight directors are set go around. Altitude, pre-select. Heading bug. Oh, let's lock in the heading bug. Well, heading bug, you know what? I'm actually going to wait until we get to the runway so I can line it up with the runway heading. So I'm not going to worry about that. Electric chim has been verified. We're simulating that we completed the ground proximity warning. Flaps, we're going to do flaps. Let's see here. Let me go back to my notes here. This is a short runway, so let's do takeoff here. Take a look here. Let's see here. Yeah, I think we'll do flaps 15. We should be fine based on what I discussed. So, to my reference once again, if that is not right, I'm sure you will tell me. All right, so let's release the parking brake. Well, let's turn taxi lights on. Excuse me, taxi lights on. Parking brake released. Let's get ready to bounce out of here. And set our condition lever up to flight idle. And at flight idle, you can see here she already starts moving. Brakes test. Oh, you know what? Sorry, let's back that back down. The checklist that I'm reading off, guys, isn't labeled yet, so I do apologize. That was the takeoff checklist. That was not the taxi checklist, so keep it at ground idle while you're in taxi. It's almost like that's probably why it's called ground idle. Man, she likes to get rolling, doesn't she? Alright, now as we get ready to take the runway, I've let off the brakes, but we're going to turn, let's see here, our landing lights on. Let's go ahead and turn the wing lights on, strobe lights on. Add some power. God, just smacks it. Smack. Smack. Alright, not the greatest lineup, but whatever, we'll do what we can. Alright, so for heading mode, or heading bug, we'll depress the heading bug, center it, lined up with the runway, go there. And now we'll set our power condition lever up to, our condition lever up to flight idle. And for takeoff, power is going to look like... So takeoff power maximum is 44.3%, but keep your in the safe loop. You're going to be wanting to look between 41 and 42. Rotate at 80 knots. Gear up at positive rate. Yaw damper on. Landing and taxi lights turned off. All right, we're going to climb at approximately 7 degrees at 400 feet AGL. We're going to go flap 0 above 100 knots. At 1,000 feet AGL, the inertial separator will get turned off. Torque for 36.9% for takeoff. Vertical speed climbing 1,200 feet a minute to about 900 to 1,000 feet. And then reducing, excuse me, to 900 to 1,000 feet. Whew, that was a mouthful. Stop. I didn't mean to let off the brake. I'm sorry. All right, so here we go. Let's go ahead and set our takeoff power. We're on a short runway, so I'm not letting off the brakes until I have to. Looks like I have to. Whoa, whoa, ooh, mama. There's 80 knots. Come on, come up, baby. Atta girl. All right, positive rate, gear up. We're already above 100 knots. Flaps up. Climbing like a bat out of hell. Okay, reducing our power to the 36.9%. That's torque, guys, that I'm watching. Top left gauge. Vertical speed, we can see we're about 1,500 feet per minute, so I'm going to bring that down just a hair. And again, we're not going very high today. Separator off. Taxi landing lights. Sorry, this is only my second time actually being off the ground in this aircraft, so that was kind of awe-inspiring almost. And it does fly beautiful. You can see we're packing away at about 180 knots already. She just likes to get up and go. Watching that torque. That down a bit, watching that power, watching my ITT. NG max, I believe, is 104%. Looking for 3,000 now. Oh crap, forgot the yaw damper. I promise all of this will be right when I get the tutorial guide released. Alright, let's start turning. Watching that descent or ascent rate. Alright, let's check out the autopilot system now. So I'm going to down. Alright, let's go into heading mode. Autopilot master on. Ooh, you are descending fast. This is my first time using the autopilot, so you guys get to do that with me. Although it doesn't seem to be holding my altitude. I don't know what I did wrong there. But it is definitely continuing to descend. So what did we miss on the altitude here? Oh, probably helps if you hit the engage button, idiot. Nobody's perfect all of the time. You know what I think it is to my PC-12 pilot? I think it's because you're watching. It's because I know you're watching this. I think that's my problem. I'm not normally this bad. Because I don't think I am. Alright, so let's make sure that I got everything now here. Okay. I think I got everything now. Definitely not in the right order. That was a fun takeoff. Damn, this thing's quick. She's a screamer. This is such an awesome tool. I love this thing. Tell me that thing isn't amazingly gorgeous. Absolutely stunning aircraft. We have TNCM over there. That's Princess Juliana right off the window there. And so for the descent, let's see if I have this right. We descend about 1,500, or excuse me, about 1,200 feet per minute. And what he basically told me is you don't redline anything. But other than that, you can descend as fast as you want. You know, engine powers, etc. But just don't overrun anything. So let's see here. Approach speeds. We're going to be looking at flaps 15 at 120 knots, flaps 30 by 100 knots, and flaps 40 for 90 knots. But usually you'll be coming in, I believe, we want flaps 40. And that's just because it's easier on the aircraft, it's easier on the approach. And you are still climbing, so, oh, that's because I disabled altitude mode. What an idiot again. So, that's probably why it was blinking at me that whole time. So let's go ahead, and now we're going to set this back down to about 1,500 feet. And we're going to roll that down to 1,200 feet per minute. And this time I'm actually going to hit the engage button, and I'm going to start pulling some power off. Alright, to my PC-12 guy, why does it blink at me? That's my first question for you. That locks in the current altitude, so that can't be right. This particular vertical speed panel exists in the TBM 852, and I remember this got me once on it as well, and I don't remember what I was doing wrong. I can't remember what it was, but I know I've done this before, and I know that I'm making a mistake that I've made before. Alright, I'm going to pull the power way off here. We're coming up on 240 knots. So we're going to really bring the power back. The aircraft slow down a bit, especially since we're going to be coming up on our approach turn. And dare I say it, I'm going to try to fly it in manually. Don't say I didn't warn you, but hopefully you guys will at least enjoy the show, right? Now, the one thing that I was told as well, guys, on the landing, your nose down quite a bit. There isn't much of a flare other than making sure that the nose doesn't hit the ground. Or the nose wheel doesn't hit the ground first, I should say. But For the most part, once we get down to our altitude, here's when I'm going to turn it around. But for the most part, you're going to find yourself pretty steep downward angle. Still more or less follow 3-degree glide slope, but you're going to find yourself, your angle of attack is going to be nose down a lot to maintain airspeed. If I understood correctly, this thing bleeds airspeed like crazy once you get it rolling. Autopilot trim. Has that been on the whole time? I can see it fluctuating there, or blinking. I'm assuming that means it's making adjustments. Interesting. Alright, airspeed now at 200 knots. Altitude approaching where we need to be. And let's lock in our altitude. So we're 200 feet below where I wanted. I'm going to continue to bring the power back a bit. Now, the landing lights and taxi lights are both attached to the wheel wells. So if you do need a light on, that's what your recog lights are for. I can't remember where exactly you'll find those. I would imagine it's those right there. Gosh, it's such a cool looking plane. They've really done a great job with this thing, man. Gosh, this is a fast plane. I think I retract my previous statement. I think this is faster than TBM. We're continuing to slow down, which is what I want. And I believe we can do first set of flaps 15 at 163 knots. So we're just about there. Now those are the maneuvering speeds, but I remember the flaps 15. I used that as a reference. Like, I can remember that number because it's right here. So hopefully that works for you guys as well. Alright. Heaven help us, I am disengaging the autopilot. And then I know that we need the inertial separator on for landing. Watch that rate of descent. Or ascent. I actually really like the way this one handles. This aircraft handles really, really nice. Went a little wide on my turn. I need to get my track IR fixed. My camera broke. Alright, so we're going to come in at about a 45-degree angle. I'm going to go ahead and go flaps 15. I'm going to go gear down. Taxi light, landing light. And a lot of this I'm doing just because it's my first. This is going to be. You guys are about to witness my first landing in the PC-12. And at slower speeds, it does get heavy, and that's what we were talking about earlier. Once you start bleeding the airspeed off, it falls off the aircraft. I'm going to stay at flaps 15 for now. Get it down to 1,000 feet. Alright, pulling power off. Oh, I don't want to be descending like a bullet. Alright, going for flaps 30. Yaw damper off. I think I pulled the flaps to 30 a little early. Alright, there's the PAPI lights. Let's come a little high. Going flaps 40. Ooh, stalling, getting too slow. Adding power, adding power. And you were not lying. Maintaining 100 knots. I'm way high, way high. I should probably be doing a go around. But I'm not, because I'm stubborn and probably stupid. Alright, so terrible on the approach. Should have been a go around. Ooh. Oh, damn. Ooh. Terrible. God, that was awful. Oh my lord. Oh, so awful. What is happening? Why am I all over the place? Ugh. Oof. That was an awful landing. That was a scary landing. That was a bad landing on my part. Ah. Should have gone around. Should have gone around. That was frustrating. But that was my first attempt at landing this aircraft, you guys. So, let's talk about a few things. First off, again, can't stress enough, I should have gone around. I was way too high. I was way too high. My angle of attack at the end got way too steep. Went way too nose down. Gained a ton of airspeed when I did that. Then caused me to float. I didn't pull the throttles back far enough. So, let's talk about all of that, right? So, don't do that. I think had I managed the descent a bit better, things would have turned out significantly different. The glorious part about being a simulator is that we can do really stupid things like not go around when we should absolutely go around. That was a completely unsafe landing. None of my passengers are ever going to fly with me again. Absolutely none of them. And I can't even taxi now because I've got myself all screwed up. Alright, cleared the runway. Move this thing back into ground idle. Turn the landing lights off, turn the strobe light off, recog lights off. Okay, I'm going to leave the video here before I can embarrass myself any further. I hope you guys still enjoyed the video, and let me make this very clear. Again, this aircraft is in pre-release. Anything that you saw in this video is absolutely subject to change, but I got to tell you, anything that you saw wrong in this video, I can guarantee was my fault. There was a few items that I was rushing through the checklist because I was worried about the video being too long for you guys, and I wanted to get to the flying part in this one. I wanted you guys to see it airborne. Talking to the flight model was absolutely fantastic. Now, one of the things that also threw me off on the landing, guys, is in today's video, I was using the Airbus Sidekick flight stick from Thrustmaster on my desk as my rudder control. Okay, it's a twist grip, and I'm not used to that. Normally I use my rudder pedals. but I am documenting a lot of this stuff when I do this, which is why I wasn't over in my flight cockpit. So that probably had a lot to do with what happened as far as me handling the aircraft on the ground once we touched wheels down. It's very, the twist scripts, I should have known better. So again, I think just about everything you guys saw was my fault. The flight model is phenomenal. The aircraft feels quote unquote heavy, I guess, but in a controlled manner. It feels very controlled. It feels very stable. The environmental impacts, turbulence, wind, etc. that we saw on takeoff out of St. Bart's, that was so freaking neat. I would have loved to have been in VR in that particular takeoff, and honestly after this video I might jump into VR just to do the takeoff again, because that was really a lot of fun. And the impacts and the things that happened with the aircraft, the way that the airframe moved through the wind, and especially as we got close to the mountain just across from 2.8, was really cool. It was really cool. The way it turns, the way it handles, how fast it is, the sounds. I mean, they've really done an absolutely beautiful job. I'm thoroughly impressed with this aircraft, and I have full confidence that I will learn it. I think it's going to take me a lot of time. And as I continue to dive into this, you guys, I will continue to update my PDF tutorial guide to match anything that I learned with this aircraft. Remember, for those of you who aren't aware, my PDF tutorial guides can be found on Patreon. Tier 2 subscribers and above have access to all of my guides. It's not just a you subscribe and you get one guide, you get all of them for the subscription price. The purpose of the subscription is to support my channel, not to pay for the guides. And I really appreciate it because you guys make a lot of this stuff possible. And so I'm trying to make this as authentic as possible, and SimWorks Studios really giving me a run for my money here, and I can't tell you guys how grateful I am for all the support and the help, and I think you guys are going to really enjoy the tutorial guide when it releases, because if you guys really want my honest answer when it comes to the Black Square TBM 850 versus the Pilatus PC-12, I don't know that I'm going to be able to give you one. They're both incredible aircraft. The flight models are both cool. The flight model, honestly, on this one, it may have a bit of an edge over the 850. So I will talk about that again. As I told you guys, we will be working with my PC-12 pilot. We're going to be talking about the differences between the two. And it's not that he's all PC-12 hero, PC-12 is the best. It's just they're two different classes of aircraft, and he's going to help me and help us essentially all to understand why it's hard to compare those two aircraft, because again, they are in two different classes. They may look similar, they may be similar in size, they may both be turboprops, but that, to my understanding, that's about where the comparison stops between the two. They both have completely different utility purposes and flight operations. So we'll see. We'll see what that all comes down to. But really, really phenomenal aircraft, you guys. This thing is a ton of fun. So I hope you guys enjoyed the video. I'm going to quit talking now. I'm going to put this thing together so I can get it out to you guys. Let me know if you guys have any questions down below, and I'll be happy to ask them with my references, whether it be SimWorks Studios or the real-world pilots that are helping us all out and helping us learn this aircraft. I promise each video is going to get better and better. And once I am finally locked down, once I get the green light from the pilot references that I know, and they tell me, yep, all right, you're not a complete idiot in the aircraft, then I will release an actual tutorial video teaching you guys everything that I have learned. But I hope you guys have enjoyed the experience. I hope you guys are just as excited about this aircraft coming to your hands as it is in mine. As always, guys, stay safe and healthy, and I'll see you in the next one.